I'm Shiraz, this is Miro and Ravi, and we're the developers of UrbanEyes. So just as some context, researchers of cities, and especially urban planners, use maps to communicate complex data about our surroundings. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of data out there to create these maps, and the tools to collect this data are often quite clunky to use or impossible to obtain for people that are collecting. And even worse, often these tools are quite laborious to use and the data is difficult to manage. So we think UrbanEyes is a solution to this. It's a tool for researchers of cities to collect the data that they need for maps. It uses the convenient technology of the smartphone, in particular GPS, barometer, and surveys, to collect that data, and then makes that data available online through a web application ready to import into mapping software. So just as an overview of the process, a researcher might create a survey and put it into our web application. That will then get sent out to users of UrbanEyes, the mobile app, and they can collect information from the environment. For example, altitude, points, paths, and areas, which are put by coordinates and counts, as well as filling out surveys. And that information can then be returned to the web application to download to create maps. As an overview of our block diagram, what we really want to show here is that the mobile application contains all the tools for collecting data. For example, altitude processors, path trackers, and GPS trackers. And the website handles all of the data storage, data download, and server creation, as well as managing user accounts. So UrbanEyes can be used to do a lot of different things. A few examples here, but to really show it in action and for a demonstration, we'll show you an example at the bottom. We went out and collected information about the building entrances along St. George Street to give information about accessibility. So Nero is going to start us off with our web application.
So I'm going to start by signing in, but the idea is that you can create an account on our website first. So let me just click here. Yeah, so I'm going to go to My Surveys view, which basically shows you the surveys that you already created. You can create a new survey, which is what you would typically start with. But we already prepared one that we can demonstrate our application on, so I'm just going to edit that one. And you can see that when you create a survey, you specify name, description, and privacy status. What this basically means is that you can create a public survey that everyone can just contribute to, or you can make it available to a specific group of people. So in this case, I have 3 contributors assigned to this survey. And I specified a list of questions here. Each of them has a different type to demonstrate different methods of input in our application, and dynamic generation of forms. So you're being asked here for a count of objects, number, text, and then there's a yes/no question. So let's switch to the mobile application and collect some data.
A surveyor is the primary user of this mobile app. On successful login, the app retrieves the list of surveys for this user from the server. I will demonstrate the building accessibility survey, which Miro just showed. It is a point survey that collects data of various types. Counts how many people pass through the door in 5 minutes, in the last 5 minutes. Numbers, text, what is the building name, and then multiple choice. Finally, the data is sent to the server, both the collected data and the location data. Path and area surveys require GPS, and I have to move around to trace the points. So I will just show a simulation. Path survey tracks a sequence of points and sends them to the server. And an area survey is a closed path. This is actually Bayham, and finally it collects data for all the questions, how many floors are in the building, and it sends the data to the server.
So let's go back to the web application now. So you can see that I switched to submissions view, and if I select the survey that we just used, I can load the submissions. And you can see that the last one was made just a few seconds ago, which is what should be submitted right now. So the idea is that what you can do now is take the data either individually or as a full survey and export it to either XML or CSV, which can be used as an input to the mapping program. We actually collected some data around campus during the last couple of days, just to show you what it can be used for. So we're going to go back to the presentation now.
Okay, so the output from the web application takes this sort of form, and basically it just is latitude, longitude, and answers to surveys, as well as times and users that contributed. And I can just directly import that into my mapping software. So here's an image of what you would see. And then on top of that, we can add context. So here I've added buildings and streets underneath, as well as subway stations. And then using this, we can calculate important factors. So for example, I can run a survey of how far is it from each one of these entrances to the nearest subway to calculate a difference in accessibility. So you can see here, accessible entrances are generally farther away. If you're just looking at them, that would translate to perhaps someone using a wheelchair. While all entrances, if you take that, which are typically people walking, generally takes less time. So in terms of what we would have done differently, having really clear examples of these projects, I think would have really helped us move forward quickly. As well, we had an image counter that we wanted to incorporate in the beginning, but just grabbing that from the start would have been, I think, best. As well, the web application took us a little bit extra time, which we didn't factor in, so starting that earlier would have been a good idea. In terms of future plans, we would like to add a noise measurement tool that measures decibels, for example, or records. Converting the data that I showed you into a more industry standard format, which are called shapefiles, would also be a really good way to move forward. And also allowing researchers to upload preset locations for surveyors to go out and obtain information at would be, I think, a great addition to the application. And that's it. Questions?
So you have a lot of people collecting data, and how do you know it's accurate?
So, right, so this is basically, the tool is designed so that the researchers are choosing people who are going out. And so we're leaving it on the responsibility of the researcher to choose people who are going to collect accurate data. There's really no way, because a lot of this data just doesn't exist, so we can't validate anything. It's really just going out there.
Okay, one more to do actually, so we're going to move on. Thank you.